This is Financially Fit Radio with Cory Sickles from Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors. Retirement isn't just about saving, it's about having a strategy that helps you navigate market ups and downs, combat inflation, and secure the future you deserve. That's why Financially Fit Radio is here to tackle your biggest financial concerns, share actionable strategies, and help you move toward your retirement goals with confidence. And now, here's Financially Fit Radio with Cory Sickles.
Welcome back to another episode of Financially Fit Radio. I'm Cory Sickles with Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors. If you'd like more information about anything we discussed today, always feel free to give us a call. You can reach out to us by giving us a call at 614-760-0670, or you can always visit us online at safeharboroh.com. And while you're on our website, feel free to click on that radio page. You can catch up on previous episodes and also subscribe to our program via Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, or Spotify. Also, feel free to watch today's show on our YouTube channel. Just type in Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors. You can go to our Financially Fit Radio playlist, watch today's show, previous shows, and make sure you also subscribe to our Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors YouTube channel. That way you'll be kept up to date anytime we post videos. We do about anywhere from 3 to 5 short videos a week on different types of financial topics, just in order to educate you on different things that are going on in the financial industry. You know, we're here to help and address any questions that you might have about retirement. And just remember, anytime you schedule a meeting with us, all meetings are complimentary and there's no financial obligation. Now, today I want to talk about a topic that obviously it comes up quite a bit, especially when you're out there checking what you should do for a financial plan. And that is why it actually might be time to fire your current financial advisor. And we'll discuss all the issues, concerns that you might have about your current financial advisor, and see if it makes sense to possibly get that second opinion or look for another financial advisor as well. But before we dive into that topic, let me introduce to you my co-host this week and every week, and that's Tony Shore. Tony, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Cory. I know that you and I have both been pretty busy. You played in this huge golf tournament this past weekend in Indiana, and I think the Jester Cup. Yep. And you were on Team USA. You came away with a victory, right?
We did. It was a tight one. We ended up winning 12.5, 11.5. We had to get 12.5 points in order to win the cup. A tie that means we would have actually technically lost, because a tie remains with the current winners. But we ended up pulling it out by a point. It was a great 3 days of golf. Got to spend a lot of time with old buddies. But, just like anything, when you go, Tony, and play in a tournament, you want to win the tournament.
Well, yeah,
right?
There you go. That's right. That's right. It is fun.
It makes that 2.5 hour ride a lot easier driving back.
Oh, is that how far you drove over there? It's about 2.5 hours.
It's about 2.5 hours to Indianapolis.
Yeah.
We had a great time. Won the cup. Awesome. For some of you out there that maybe watch the videos that I put out there, and you can watch those if you go to our Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors or my personal Facebook page or Instagram page or YouTube page. I got a playlist out there for the Jester Cup. I made this event probably a little bit more social media than past, leading up to the tournament. So, the pressure was on me, on Team USA to win, and
it was.
We did, and now we're looking forward to defending our cup in the 2026 Jester Cup.
Can't wait.
And, I end all my videos, one way, whatever I'm talking about, and it's always, let's go red, white, and blue.
Yeah.
And we came through, and we're looking forward to next year.
Let's go red, white, and blue, right?
That's right.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome, Cory. And I know you had a lot of fun with that. I know you've also been busy with clients. There's been a lot going on. There was a huge investment conference for investors, talking about the markets that you went to recently as well. Brian Belsky spoke there. He's the chief strategist, financial strategist for BMO Banks, and a couple other people, pretty big people, and some of the top advisors talking to each other about the markets and what's
Yep.
going on and how to help their clients with different portfolios. How did that go?
It went well. The speakers were great. It's always, it's always good to hear what speakers are talking, just to get their expertise on different types of, financial topics. Brian always talks about what he projects for the market over the next, for the upcoming year. And obviously there were different, there were people talking there from Schwab, from JP Morgan. I mean, there was a lot of different companies there represented to talk about different type of topics. But I think one of the nicest things also, Tony, is to be able to spend time with other advisors and brainstorm about, issues, concerns that we have as well, and what makes sense to maybe come back and implement within your practice.
Yeah, to help your clients. And it's all
That's
about,
exactly right.
to better serve your clients. I think that's great. You always come back with some great ideas.
It does.
And I know no one has a crystal ball, but I got the impression from what you told me that the overall mood there, like from people like Brian Belsky, is pretty optimistic at this point, right?
Yeah, I think the mood, it was pretty optimistic about where they see the market going.
Yeah.
For the rest of this year and next year. I mean, most of them had the thought process that the market, we're still in a bull market, and the market's going to, have a good year. Obviously, there's the big thing that can derail it. What I think a lot of people are worried about more than anything else is going to be inflation, and it's going to be interest rates.
Yeah. Yep. Inflation and interest rates.
And you never know what could happen from a global perspective. But when you just look at, you have to remember, one thing we always say is don't let politics interfere with your investing.
Yeah.
There's going to be all kinds of things that happen from a political standpoint.
Sure.
But a lot of those many times, Tony, those are only like a week or two, snippets within a year. Market gets nervous one way or the other, but at the end of the day, it's all about our companies making money.
Yeah.
If companies make money and they're meeting their projections, then the market's going to do well.
Is the economy strong? Are companies making money? Are consumers spending money?
That's
We're
exactly right.
consumer driven. It's a consumer driven market and economy. And so that makes a big difference. And that's what it comes down to. I think that's a really good point. Now, obviously, if we want to be successful with our investments, with our retirement plans and our retirement accounts, it really helps to work with a trusted financial advisor. In fact, sometimes it's crucial to avoid costly mistakes that could completely derail your financial plans or your retirement plans. So you're asking the question, why it might be time to fire your financial advisor.
Sure.
I mean, why would somebody want to fire or get rid of their current financial advisor?
Yeah, so let's kind of just talk about maybe some of the things that you should be on the lookout for. Where so, what, my advisor's not doing this, so maybe I should get a second opinion on some things, right?
Sure.
As we kind of go through all these that I'm going to mention, the one thing I will say, Tony, is, obviously we've lost clients. I mean, any financial advisor is going to lose clients.
Sure.
But the one thing we try to do is, the things I'm going to talk about is we try to not to make sure that these are the issues.
Right.
In the first one, I think the number one reason why someone's going to leave an advisor, Tony, is it's really going to boil down to they feel like there's some type of lack of communication, right?
Right.
An advisor or their staff. So I want to make sure we're clear on that. It's not always the advisor; it could be the staff that's actually working with them on day-to-day tasks, right? But they could be slow to respond to calls or emails or any type of things that you might seem important to you, but maybe they're not getting done, right?
Mm-hmm.
And another one might be, this is probably a big one, is how often do you actually hear from them when we start talking about scheduling annual reviews, or whether you want semi-annual reviews, right? One thing that we try to do at Safe Harbor, Tony, is we try to have a face-to-face meeting with everyone once a year. And if you don't hear from us, we're going to actually give you a call to schedule that annual meeting. Now, depending on your situation, We might have to meet a few more times throughout the year, especially the year you might retire, or you might end up wanting to meet with us, 2 or 3 times a year just to be able to review your portfolio too. We kind of leave that up to the client, but we're always going to meet with you at least one time face to face. The other part that I see when I talk with people coming in is a lot of times they're unclear of what they're actually paying in fees. They don't understand maybe on how the advisor is getting paid. Is it commission or is it fee based, right? They might not be able to see the value in paying a lot of fees, but I think at the end of the day, there's just not the transparency of what are the fees by every product that I'm in. You might be invested in the market. You might have annuities. You might have life insurance. You might have alternative investments. There might be all kinds of different things that you're invested in with that particular firm, but you need to make sure that you're clear on what you're actually paying. And you also want to make sure that you're also getting the transparency when it comes to the fees too. We try to outline everything. Always want to make sure a client knows what they're actually paying in fees. I think it's important to know that they understand that and how the fees are going to be calculated, when the fees are going to come out. The other part of it, when we start talking about transparency, Tony, is I think you also need to be able to make sure that they get back to you, or they're transparent on why this particular product fits for you.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I think you guys are great with transparency. And I think if an advisor doesn't do that, like, especially like, how is he getting paid? What fees are you paying for these services, and what are you getting for those services? You're right up front about that. And if you go to meet with somebody who calls themselves a financial planner advisor and they're not upfront about the fees, how it works, and they don't present it to you in plain English, not good, right?
No, it's not good. And you need to make sure that you understand that. We try to be as transparent as possible.
Yeah.
Whether it's with products, whether it's with fees. And it's just with, at the end of the day, Tony, one of the things we really try to do, right, is we want to make sure that we explain things to you and be transparent about it.
Yeah.
And to make sure it's simple enough for you to understand.
Yeah.
And I believe me, some of when you get into some products, they might be a little bit more complicated than others. And one thing that we try to do even on annual reviews, Tony, is go back and remind you why this product works for you and how it actually does work.
Yeah.
I think that's very important.
Yeah, some strategies or tools that you use or products can be, some are simpler, some are more complex, but you're only going to recommend them if they fit. They're the best possible solution to your client's needs, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And I think another thing you need to look at too is, are your investment strategies aligned with you, right? And, are you too aggressive, or maybe you're too conservative based upon your risk level? So one of the things we try to do when we have annual meetings or anytime we meet face to face is normally we're going to go through the process to do a risk score every time. Things change. Every year you're one step closer to retirement, or if you're in retirement, you're just one step closer to something else. And you just don't, obviously as you age, you probably get more conservative. And you just need to make sure that all your investments are kind of going through you where you are in your life. Everyone's priorities are different. They're going to change. And you want to make sure those alignments change with you, right? And which means I might have to actually work with a client and adjust your strategy as we meet.
Yeah.
Because things do change. So you do want to make sure you understand how you're invested, where you're invested, what's your true risk level, and what is my risk score, and do they all match? It's so important to be able to do that, because by having that match, then it's a lot easier to say, if you're conservative and the market's up 20, you shouldn't expect to make 20%, Tony, right?
Right.
If you're conservative, you might only want to have, 40% of the risk of the market, which means you might only get 40% of the returns. So you need to make sure that you understand that, and make sure your investment portfolio is following what your wishes are.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
some people want more risk and they're not worried if it goes down, but most people, especially as they get older and closer to retirement, are going to want less risk, and they're probably going to say, "No, I'm pretty conservative. I don't want to lose any
right.
money." Yeah. And so if you're in the wrong, what you're saying is if you have the wrong investment strategy, and let's say, you really don't want to lose money and the market goes way down and all your money's in the market, that's not going to be good, right? So you
That's
look at
exactly
that,
right.
right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And I think the other part of this, when we start talking about investment strategy, when you start looking at your overall financial plan, you don't want to feel like you're in a situation where your advisor's putting it's kind of like a one size fits all approach,
Yeah.
right? The one thing that we try to do is customize a financial plan based upon your needs. Everyone's different, which means everyone's going to need a different type of financial plan, right? Um, so with that being said, Tony, when you start getting that outside of that one size fits all, now you have to start looking at other things too. You got everyone's tax situation is different, which means you might have to have different plans for different people based upon taxes. Everyone has different income levels, right? Which means you're going to have different income needs, which means you're going to have different ways that you have to invest that money. Social Security, right? You might be single, you might be married, you might be a widow or widower, you might be divorced. So you need to make sure that you're working with someone that understands all the different, um, all the different advantages that you should be able to take advantage of when we start talking about Social Security. And then you also need to make sure that they're understanding your estate plan. If something happens to you tomorrow, you want to make sure you have a plan in place to be able to, take care of that. So when you look at like Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors, I handle the financial side, right? We have a CPA that can work with you on taxes. We have an attorney you have access to for estate planning. We handle the retirement income for you. We have a Social Security maximization report. And then at the end of the day, we can throw all these type of things into a financial plan and then also give you access to our, generational vault where you have access to all these things when you log into our website, into your account. It's personalized back to you. So, you have to make sure that you feel comfortable with your advisor and make sure that they have a plan that's fit just for you.
Yeah.
That's so important.
Yep. Well, yeah, you want a personalized plan. You want to maximize your Social Security based on your situation. There isn't a one size fits all there. We've talked about
Right.
that before, and that's something you can help your clients with. You run a report based on their situation so they can see all the different possibilities and strategies that best fit them and where that
Right.
sweet spot is, when to file. So what's next? So that's avoid the one size fits all approach that an
Yeah.
advisor has.
And kind of going with that same thing would be maybe you're working with an advisor that does have a limited services, right?
Sure.
Maybe they just do insurance products like annuities.
Yep.
I think you're going to want to deal with someone that can handle your investments without, we want to be able to make sure that we're also integrating your investments with your retirement planning, your tax strategies, your insurance, and your insurance could be life insurance, Tony. It could be long-term care. It could be death benefit. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use life insurance as well. And of course, legacy planning. So I think the way it is anymore, I think a lot of clients out there are wanting to go to a place that has all those things that in one area or in one office, right?
Yep.
The one thing I didn't mention too, but that's also a big one. And when we start talking about healthcare, it's Medicare. So
Yeah.
not only can you come in with all the other services we just offered, we also have a Medicare specialist that can work with you as well.
Yeah.
So
that's huge.
that is huge.
Yeah. As
Right.
you go into retirement, if you're in retirement, having somebody that can help you through that the annual enrollment period and taking care of Medicare each year, you have to make sure, hey, am I in the right plan? Could I be saving money? Could I be getting better coverage?
That's right.
You need to talk about that because Medicare has gotten very complicated.
It is. That's why you should review it every year, just like you should with your financial investments.
Yep.
I think the other thing you need to look for is, does your current advisor have some type of conflict of interest? Are they a true fiduciary, right? I mean, if they're an insurance only advisor out there, probably just doing annuities and life insurance. I mean, they don't truly have a true fiduciary, to you,
Yeah.
right? So when we start talking about conflict of interest from a fiduciary standpoint, really what we're talking about is that current advisor pushing certain products that benefit them more than you. Are they
Right.
making a higher commission?
Yeah.
Do they
And
get to
ask,
go on? Do
yeah,
they get to go on that trip because I did so many, millions of dollars with this particular company?
right.
So I think from a client's perspective, you just need to make sure that you're working with a true fiduciary.
Yes.
We're
That's
a
what I was
registered
going to
investment
say.
advisor. We're bound to have a fiduciary obligation to our clients,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, ask them if they're a fiduciary. Are they a registered investment advisor? Are they held to that standard? Do they get audited for that? That's what being a fiduciary means. And that means they have to look out for what's in your best interest. They can't just sell you things that are going to get them the biggest benefits. They have to look at what's going to be the best possible solution for you.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
And then I think also, as life changes, right? You might want to move to a different state, different city.
true.
Do you want to be able, do they do Zoom meetings? Do they do Teams meetings? Or, how are they going to be able to meet with you? That could have an impact on whether or not you want to stay with your advisor, right? Things happen. And, when I talk about life changes, right? You could inherit money. Maybe your parents have passed away. Now you have an inheritance. Are they able to handle that with you? You lose your spouse. Are they able to work with you? Maybe you're a small business owner, Tony, and you have a business to sell, right? Which means now you need deeper experience. Does your current advisor have the experience to help guide you through those type of difficult situations?
Yeah, yeah, that's big.
And the last one I kind of really want to talk about, and I think this one most people know, and you usually get this sense the very first time you meet them, second time you meet them, and it should remain the same as you're kind of working with them as you kind of go through life. And that is do you really trust that advisor, right? Do you feel comfortable and confident that they're going to be, that they're doing all the right things for you? And it's the same thing if you're going to even come to say, you want to go through the process and become with us, become potentially a client of ours. When we meet, you're going to have that gut feeling whether or not we're a good fit, whether you're going to be able to trust us to do the right thing for you. Trust is this is probably the biggest part of whether or not you should really be working with the advisor that you're working with, and that is, do you truly trust them?
That's got to be the bottom line. I
Right.
would agree. If you don't feel like you can trust somebody, that's not a good thing. And I think that's why it's so important that people listen to the show to get good financial advice and hear what is out there, some things they should be thinking about. But again, everybody's situation is different, and that's why you like to meet with people one-on-one and offer that no charge, no obligation consultation. So before we go today, why don't you let our listeners out there know, Cory, how they can set that up?
Yeah. You can give us a call at 614-760-0670, or you can always visit us online at safeharboroh.com. You can always schedule a complimentary, no financial obligation meeting with us. We get asked that question a lot. Well, what's the second meeting cost? We don't charge in order to meet with you, whether it's the first, second, third, or whatever meeting it is. We're here to truly help and guide you to make sure you have the best retirement that you possibly can. And really the best way to be able to do that is to schedule a complimentary meeting.
Yeah.
If you have a financial plan, we can review where you are. Worst case is we're going to come back and say you're good. If not, we'll come back with some recommendations for you. And if you don't have a financial plan, then as I always say, you need to have one tomorrow. And the best way to do that is, again, to schedule that meeting with us.
All right. Well, thanks, Cory. And get a second opinion on where you're at. And all you have to do is pick up the phone, 614-760-0670. And that does it for today's episode of Financially Fit Radio with our host, Cory Sickles.
Thank you for joining us for Financially Fit Radio. Don't head into retirement without a strategy that addresses both income and taxes. For more information, please contact Cory Sickles at Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors at 614-760-0670 or visit safeharboroh.com now. Join us again soon for another episode of Financially Fit Radio.
Investment advisory services are offered by Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors, LLC, and SEC Investment Advisor. Insurance products and services are offered through Safe Harbor Retirement Group, LLC, an affiliated company. Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors, LLC, and Safe Harbor Retirement Group, LLC, are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration, the Federal Medicare Program, or any government agency. All matters discussed during the show are for informational purposes only. Each individual situation may vary, and the opinions expressed here may not apply to everyone. Materials presented are believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations can be made as to its accuracy. All ideas and information should be discussed in detail with one of our qualified representatives prior to implementation. Calling this number will direct you to a licensed sales agent.